All right, gang, we're on module 10B, lab 23, what page?
84.
84. All right. So we're going to continue to look at light. Let's do a little bit of a review from last week. We're looking at color as well. All right, so we have light and color, and we'll get into that, and then we're going to see, remember the difference between reflection and refraction. All right, are those the top blanks in your book? No? Okay, so let's just review them. Reflection of light has angles that are equal to each other, right? And it's shining off of a surface. And refraction of light occurs when light bends after passing through a substance. All right, so reflection's bouncing off, refraction's bending through. All right, rules of refraction. Is this your first blank?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. When light refracts into a substance in which it must slow down, the light ray will bend toward a line perpendicular to the surface it strikes. I think you're only filling in one little blank, yes?
Two.
Just 2 blanks.
2 blanks, okay. But I put in yellow here, toward a line perpendicular to the surface it strikes. So bends toward when it is slowing down. When the light refracts into a substance in which it will speed up, depending on what it is, right? The light will bend away from a line perpendicular to the surface it strikes. All right, so the way to remember this is speed away. Speed away.
Replace?
No. Just remember when the light is speeding up, it's going to bend away. So that's a way to remember an answer to a quiz question. And now I'm going to show you what it looks like. Okay. So, for instance, I have light coming, it's going fast, it's going to slow down. Here's our perpendicular, okay? So it's going to bend, and then it's going to bend again right here, right? It's going to go faster here. So it's going to go away.
Where's the perpendicular line?
That's a good question.
Because at
perpendicular
the end, it
line.
wasn't spinning towards the perpendicular line.
Okay, let's look at this one right here. Okay, here we go. Here's our normal, right? So it's coming in, and it's going to bend away from our perpendicular line. So what do we know about this? If it's bending away, then it's going to be traveling. It's going to be speeding up. So that's not water then, right? Because it would be the other way if it were water. Right?
Right.
Yeah, because the fastest light's going to go is through air. All right, which is unlike sound. Very different from sound.
It was traveling through solid and then through water.
True. Yeah, so that's just, we can't really, we just don't really know. Yeah, so it depends. This could be a block of diamond, right, which would go really slow. And it's going to speed up, so it's going to bend away from the line of perpendicularity. Okay. Refraction of light, it says, video? Oh, yes. Here we go. This will help us. Seeing it makes it easier. Oops, hold on.
In this situation, we have a light source shining a beam of light onto a container of water. Now what's going to happen is that beam of light travels to the container of water and hits the side. Well, whenever light hits a surface, there's a possibility for both reflection and refraction. Let's start with reflection. According to the law of reflection, a line perpendicular to the surface at the point of contact is very important. So let's draw that line now. So that dashed line is perpendicular to the surface at the point where the light beam hits the surface. Now, according to the law of reflection, a reflected ray will come off with an angle relative to that line that is equal to the...
Oh, might be the speaker.
away from that dashed line as the incident ray does. So that's the reflected ray that will come off.
Nothing?
Can also travel into the water. But because light travels...
I can't plug it in because the microphone's plugged in. We're going to start over. Nope. Yep. Sorry, gang.
In this situation, we have a light source shining a beam of light onto a container of water. Now what's going to happen is that beam of light travels to the container of water and hits the side. Well, whenever light hits a surface, there's a possibility for both reflection and refraction. Let's start with reflection. According to the law of reflection, a line perpendicular to the surface at the point of contact is very important. So let's draw that line now. So that dashed line is perpendicular to the surface at the point where the light beam hits the surface. Now, according to the law of reflection, a reflected ray will come off with an angle relative to that line that is equal to the original angle. So let's draw that in now. You see how the reflected ray has the same basic angle away from that dashed line as the incident ray does. So that's the reflected ray that will come off the surface. But that's not the only thing that can happen, right? The light can also travel into the water. But because light travels more slowly in water than air, refraction tells us that the light will bend towards that perpendicular line. So the light that enters the water will be closer to that dashed line than the light that came from the flashlight. That's what we call the refracted ray. Now the refracted ray will travel through the water, and nothing will happen to it until it hits the other side of the container. At that point, the same two things can happen. So some of the light will be reflected. We'll draw our perpendicular again, and we know that the reflected ray has the same angle relative to that perpendicular as the ray that hit that side of the container. However, some of that light will also refract out of the container. But think about what happens when the light leaves the container. It will now be traveling in air. Light travels more quickly in air than it does in water, so according to what you learned about refraction, that means the light will be bent away from the perpendicular. So the final refracted ray will be farther away from the dashed line than the ray that's inside the container.
Okay, so I think I have a picture of it. There it is. I think, are you supposed to sketch that? Mm-hmm. Okay, so draw that. So we have our, if I'm shining it through a beaker, for instance, some of that is going to be reflective. Right here. Y'all have enough light?
Yeah.
We're going to make it dark in here in a minute for our lab as well.
Sick.
Really?
Oh yeah. It's a fun lab. All right. Yes,
I use the restroom.
you may. So y'all have our sketch though, yes? Everybody good?
No.
This is the reason why we see things that look kind of funny because of refraction. Sometimes it has to do with this bending of the light through the medium in which it travels. So like say a glass of water or something like that. How are we? Good? All right, so if we look here and we put a pencil then into like a tub of water, it looks like the pencil is bent. Like here's a really good example of it, you see. So it looks like that straw is bent or even broken, right? But it's not. It's just the trick of the water changing the speed at which the light enters in, and that light comes and hits my eyes and I see it that way. Okay? All right, how do fiber optic cables work? This is just kind of thrown in there. Okay, how do fiber optic cables work? Light only reflects in the use of fiber optic cable. So apparently it's really great that it doesn't have any refraction going on. Refraction depends on the wavelength of light. Okay, those seem like they're not necessarily related to each other, but we'll proceed. So this is apparently a picture of some fiber optic cable. And let's watch a little video that'll help us understand a little better what we're getting at. Sorry about the sound.
Fiber optics, or optical fiber, refers to the medium and the technology associated with the transmission of information as light pulses along a glass or plastic strand or fiber. Fiber optic lines are strands of optically pure glass, as thin as a human hair, that carry digital information over long distances. They are also used in medical imaging and mechanical engineering inspection. They are arranged in bundles called optical cables and used to transmit light signals over long distances. Fiber optic cables carry information between two places using entirely optical, light-based technology. Fiber optics transmit data in the form of light particles, or photons, that pulse through a fiber optic cable. The glass fiber core and the cladding each have a different refractive index that bends incoming light in a certain angle. When light signals are sent through the fiber optic cable, they reflect off the core and cladding in a series of zigzag bounces, adhering to a process called total internal reflection. The simplest type of optical fiber is called single mode. Single mode fiber is used for longer distances due to the smaller diameter of the glass fiber core, which lessens the possibility for attenuation, the reduction in signal strength. The smaller opening isolates the light into a single beam, which offers a more direct route and allows the signal to travel a longer distance. Another type of fiber optic cable is called multimode. Multimode fiber is used for shorter distances because the larger core opening allows light signals to bounce and reflect more along the way. The larger diameter permits multiple light pulses to be sent through the cable at one time, which results in more data transmission. Multimode fiber optics typically use an LED to create the light pulse. Computer networking is a common fiber optic use case due to optical fiber's ability to transmit data and provide high bandwidth. Similarly, fiber optics is frequently used in broadcasting and electronics to provide better connections and performance. Fiber optics are also frequently used in a variety of medical instruments to provide precise illumination. It also increasingly enables biomedical sensors that aid in minimally invasive medical procedures. Stay tuned to Galco TV for more tech tips.
Okay, I feel like he said refracting in there though. So that's weird. He didn't say it was all reflecting? I don't quite get that. Okay, internet. So, light is part of my internet connection? Apparently. I don't know if it's part of my internet connection
Well,
at my house. Does anybody know? Do you know if you have a fiber optic connection to your internet? I mean, I guess it's possible, but I've definitely seen cable before at my house.
I know fiber optics works on like the things you watch on TV. Like,
Yeah, so it has to do with the way the signal gets into your house. I think that maybe people in the cities might have the fiber
I have
optic.
a satellite.
I do too. So I don't know how the satellite communicates to my TV.
Oh, no,
But my
see,
internet comes through cable.
I have like a router and then like a satellite. That
Yeah,
goes
so
through.
what cables are? That's the question. Are they fiber optic cables
I
is the
don't
question.
know.
Yeah, so, I don't know. Yeah, so this is one of the DSL's one of the slower ones there. But yes, we can have it part of the deal. All right, now, steps in the formation of a rainbow. Don't draw anything yet. You're going to draw something in a minute, but don't draw it yet because I'm going to give it to you in the shape and the side of the picture it needs to be. All right, so we're looking at color now and how color forms. We have the whole spectrum that comes off of a prism, right? We talked about prisms last time. We tried to look at how beautiful this day would have been for throwing some rainbows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we have sunshine today. Did I bring those? No. I put them up because I needed room in my boxes. Yeah, so, but we got the idea, but we used a little, this little diffraction grating and you could see it through that. But let's see how it forms, namely in a rainbow.
When a beam of light hits a piece of glass straight on, it passes right through it.
She's nosy.
But the waves that make up the light actually get slowed down by the glass and only go back to their normal speed when they come out the other side. That slowing down is what causes white light to split into a rainbow of colour whenever it hits glass on an angle. It happens because glass slows some colours of light more than others, and because slowing down on an angle makes light bend. It's easy to understand the bending if you picture how the light waves would look from above, like how waves at the beach look if you see them from the air. And while white light's made up of all the different colours of light, it also helps to look at them one colour at a time. When a wave front of red light hits glass on an angle, the part of the wave that enters the glass first gets slowed down before the rest, and that changes the angle of the whole wave, like how waves bend around a cliff. Violet light gets slowed down even more by glass, so its waves bend more. All the other colours get bent somewhere in between. So the colours get separated when they first enter the glass on an angle, and they spread out even more when they speed up on an angle as they leave. The reason the different colours slow down different amounts in glass is because they've got different wavelengths. Red light has the longest wavelength, followed by orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and finally violet with the shortest wavelength. And the shorter the wavelength, the longer it takes to travel through glass. That's because light interacts with electrons in the molecules that make up glass. Long wavelength light, like red, only interacts a bit with the electrons, so it doesn't get slowed much. But shorter wavelength violet light interacts more, so it gets slowed down more. So it's the combination of hitting glass on an angle and different wavelengths interacting with the electrons in the glass different amounts that makes light hitting a prism spread out into a beautiful spectrum of colour and some classic album cover art.
All right. Do y'all know the classic album cover art? You mean- It's Pink Floyd. Yeah. So this kind of shows, this is not, I want to put this on so you can see how it's bending it at a different angle, right? So I thought that was interesting how the wavelength interacts with the glass and at different times, which is pretty cool. So when we're using a prism, we need to try to come in at an angle, right? So this is slowing it down, and this is speeding it up. So then slowing it down, that's right, the angle's going correctly, isn't it? It's going up and then speeding away, going down.
What happens if it doesn't go to an angle?
You just don't get your rainbow, right? So it doesn't work. It like, remember last time we could see like just regular light on the floor, like a patch of regular light or whatever, it reflected the light. But when you get it just the right, and we have to do it like this and hold it, and then it'll come through and you'll see the rainbow when it does that. All right, so you're still not drawing this just yet. So how does a rainbow in the sky form after a storm? Okay, well, it has to do with the droplets of water, and each little droplet, each little rain droplet is acting like a little prism, and the light's going to shine through that. All right, and so we're going to see it's going to bounce, it's going to bend, it's going to bend, it's going to bend again, this kind of thing. This is what you're going to draw. I apologize, but that's what was given to me. I wish the book had it drawn this way, but it doesn't. So we're going to hit your light's coming in here at the top, yes, and then it's going to bend. It's weird that light enters in. It's not coming in at an angle that it bends the wrong way, doesn't it? If that's the
arrow's like going at an angle.
And then here, this one is all right because it's bending within it. This is a reflection right here. At A, light A is reflected, and then here it's going away. That's right. I don't know if somebody made this slide.
If they did horrible.
Yeah, it seems a little weird. Once y'all get it drawn, I'm going to go back to mine and see the difference real quick.
The last one at B isn't bending. Where's the perpendicular?
Yeah, so the perpendicular should, well, it's kind of weird because we're coming in like this, so the perpendicular should be like, I'm guessing like this. All right. So then it's going to, it looks like it's going the wrong way. Looks like the whole thing's upside down to me.
If you want to see not how to draw this, there you go.
So that's what you're drawing in your book.
How to not draw one.
Right. Now the reflected one is perfect. That coming in and going out, perfect. That's fine. It just depends on, so if it's hitting it this way and our perpendicular is this way, I guess that could be it. And then it's going away. That would make sense, I guess. I just think it's a little confusing. But you understand the concept of it, though. Okay, let's go back to this one, yeah. Okay, so it's coming in at an angle. Here's my perpendicular, it looks like. This way.
That's reflected ray.
And it still looks like it's going the wrong way. Yeah, so it must be the way I'm looking at it with my eyes. All right, so, but how does it do it up in the sky? So up in the sky, we're going to see the bending. See here, it's bending the red ones at this angle here, resulting in the top part of the bow, and the purple ones, the blue ones right here, down here representing this part of the rainbow right there, and that's what we see from a distance. So it's pretty cool that we get rainbows at all. You know, it's pretty amazing. And it has to be just exactly the way, and typically it has to be the way the light's coming to the rain at that moment in time. So we have to have sun, we have to have rain. And typically if you see one, it's there for quite some time, right? I always know, you'll drive around, you know, if you're driving, you'll try to figure out where it is, and it moves because you're moving, you know, and it changes where it is. It's pretty cool. So it's really just a sweet little miracle that God gives us.
Yeah, me and my
Love it.
mom were somewhere
Little
like we
things
were
looking
on
at
this big
rainbow.
mountain, and we saw like a full circle.
No way. So if you're up above like a waterfall or something, especially, was there waterfalls nearby? And there's a mist. And so my granddad told me he'd seen that too. You can see the full circle of the rainbow. And it does, it makes the full circle. If
So
it
it's
can.
circle it?
I'm sure. Did you get, and there's no way to get a photograph. I
Yeah,
mean, you
you
can try, but it's
I
not.
caught up to it once.
Did you get the
Pot of
gold?
gold, yeah.
Pot of gold and the leprechaun guarding it, yeah? Okay.
Fight him.
I did find
You lose.
So you're
No,
rich then.
He was really small.
Okay.
Like crazy.
So here we go. See, so the reflected lights keep doing that. So refract it out, yeah. Yeah, I just feel like I'm looking at it upside down. I don't know, it's like something about my eyes. But you see how, so essentially what's gonna happen, we're gonna have refraction in, reflection out. And we can see it kind of stretches it. The fact that it's going in and reflecting off this, kind of magnifying that and making it so that in the sky it's this giant thing that we can see there. All right, must have to do with my geometry skills and where my perpendicular is. Okay, now in this same vein, we're looking at something called polarization. Polarization is describes light waves that vibrate in only one plane. It's kind of cool if you've ever known anybody who had polarized sunglasses. What it will do is it'll let the light come in one way, so that other ways that it's coming in where it scatters the light, it won't scatter it. But it's really interesting if you have two pair of polarized glasses and you hold them up, and it's really good blocking the sun, right? And you take the second pair and turn it 90 degrees, it'll block all light coming through. Because it's blocking it this way, right? So when you're seeing it come through this way, it's blocking everything like this, and when you turn the other one like this, it just completely blocks it all together. So, yeah. And it has to do with the way that the lenses are treated with little lines, basically. So unpolarized light reduces glare. And so you can see here looking through somebody's sunglasses right here. The way you can tell if something's polarized, if you turn it and it changes how much light comes into it.
My glasses
You
do
can
that.
tell if they're polarized, yeah. So do those turn dark in the sun?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, what is scattering? This comes to the same
Right
deal
away.
here. Scattering describes the tiny particles such as dust and water that when light passes through them, the light is redirected. So the light just kind of gets scattered throughout the sky, which is actually very fortunate for us. It's why the sky is blue, because it scatters that blue wavelength. It scatters that little wavelength just to that perfect. When the sun is high in the sky, the angle at which it hits scatters the blue so that we see the blue. Blue light waves pass through the atmosphere on a sunny day and get scattered in all directions, making the sky blue.
Why can't they be green?
It could have been. You know, we talked about that why are plants green. God just picked it. Yeah. So he just picked the sun to come through and bend right there. But it does change a little bit. Have you ever seen it when it gets a little green outside? What typically do you think about? Do you have any
The
kind
sky?
of when the sky turns purple or green or yellow? You ever had that happen to you?
Look at the sunset.
Typically it has to do when there's a storm coming.
Oh.
And in fact, if the sky turns a real eerie kind of purplish or a yellowish or a blue, something like that, not a blue, a greenish, then you might be concerned about a tornado in the neighborhood.
Sometimes when a sunset, it's
We're getting to that.
hazy and brown sometimes.
Yeah, we're getting to that. But see here, when the light's coming at the angle that's pretty much right above us, we're going to see the scattering. And look at the yellow and the red and orange get to the ground. Look, the green is reflecting off the trees. And the blue is just scattering across the sky, the blue and the purple. But when it gets lower in its angle, the angle comes down over here. It's going to shine through at a different angle, through a different thickness, really, because it's going through the side. And we end up with something like that. Right? So there's our sunset coming through the side of our atmosphere right there. Okay, so we can see that our eyes are going to see those colors more frequently. All
So
right,
when light from the sun shines through, it's always in the colors.
it's all the colors, right? It's all 7 colors.
But you can't always see them because they're not always bent.
Well, yeah, so we see it bent in the sky, so the scattering's going on in the sky, and it's not refracting in front of us. What we see is a lot of reflection. That's why we see color when we look outside. When we look inside, we see all this color because a bunch of reflection going on.
When we see like white light from the sun, it's not colored.
Right, because the white light's coming through, and then the scattering part,
It's only
looking
when
blue here,
only when it comes off to an object.
which is our atmosphere.
Yeah.
Yeah, the atmosphere is a refractory lens, okay, and it's refracting through there, but it's mostly shining through, right? And then we're going to see all this reflection off of various things down here. All right, we talked about lenses a little bit last time. I did bring the lenses back with us, right? So the converging lens is a convex shaped lens. It looks like this one right here, that concentrates light to a single focal point. Remember we did that last time? We can do it again today. I felt like we rushed through that a little bit.
Like what?
Our lenses. In our diverging lens, the concave shape, remember it looks like a little cave in there, spreads the light outward. It turns it into angles that go outward. We use those, for instance, in a, have you ever used a flashlight and it makes a really like wide beam on it? And you can maybe move it and change it so it gets more concentrated, right? So it has to do with that diverging lens makes the light go out this way, and we make that light go through a bigger part of that diverging lens. We mostly use converging lenses for glasses and things like that to get a focal point so we can focus things. The reason we wear glasses is to help us focus at what we're
So
looking at.
convergent lens will be used for telescopes.
Yes, mostly, right. Mostly for other optical
Binoculars.
things like magnifying glasses and things like that are mostly converging lenses. And then we'll use these, like for instance, in a lighthouse. A lighthouse will have a big mirror and then a lens that's diverging, so it'll spread that light all around so the sailors can see it. Yeah? Are y'all drawing something?
Yes.
I think I have something easier for you to draw.
It's
Well, we have
same
to write
thing.
down the definition.
Yeah, you got, there's just some, oh, you had to write down the whole thing?
No, it doesn't. You don't have to write down definition.
The
I don't
the
know
drawing
what you're
shape.
writing.
It says to write down. It says to draw. Sketch here.
Oh, well, I also want
Okay, let me give you something easier to draw. So here's our converging lens. You see it's converging to a focal point. And here we're diverging. We're diverging away from a focal point in
Looks
order
like the same
to
picture.
scatter our light. What now?
Oh,
Looks
I
like the same
think
picture.
I
It
think we're
does?
supposed to write
Yeah.
the definitions of the
Yeah.
two types of lenses.
Apparently it just says draw it.
Yeah, it just says sketch here.
Yeah.
Compare two
What
types
do
of
we do?
lens.
It's, look,
Sketch here.
So here's
Yes.
our, does this help you or no?
No.
What is this?
I don't get it.
Okay.
You don't get this?
it looks like one of those things that you like push
How
over
about
and
that
it
one?
tumbles
Draw.
over and it like rolls into
The
a stand on
lenses.
the
You're
spot.
supposed to draw that.
Oh.
Converging looks like that. Diverging looks like this. So, Josh, you thought they looked the same? One of them is
Oh no, I'm talking about the
bulging
two
out.
pictures. The two pictures. Like the slide before
From
and
the two
slide.
slides.
Okay.
Not those ones.
Well, these are bigger though. I think I just made it bigger for you to see it more
Yeah.
easily. Are we all good?
Yep.
No? Got some artists working on their craft?
No, I tried making
I
it a
was like,
3D
I did
square
this
and that's
and
not
she
related.
If I sketch it, I
No,
get
she's
credit.
the artist. Yeah, that's much better.
Casper,
Huh?
I tried making a 3D square in math class today.
Yeah?
That looks like a coffee maker.
A coffee maker?
Coffee machine.
That was like the 3D
Well, there's a 3D square, right? Okay, are we good? So here's the light coming through, bending to a focal point. It focuses there. These are my reading glasses, right? And here, this is going to do both of them. Here it is converging, focal point, and here, diverging, or flashlight.
Well, what does diverging do? Like when do they
Makes
use it?
things go
In a flashlight
Oh, flashlight.
Wait,
or a lighthouse. It's gonna, wherever it wants to make the bigger.
The way I drew
A
this,
spotlight, I
it
bet you uses a diverging light.
looks like the converging lens spreads it out, doesn't it?
No. Converging lens takes it from here and puts it down to a pinpoint.
I drew it wrong.
Like this, converging, takes it pinpoint.
What are the second rays?
Diverging, it spreads
No,
it out
at
going
the
this way.
top.
What?
What are those rays with the arrows in them at the top?
This is the light coming into the lens.
No, the,
I was
the
talking about what's
arrows.
after when it gets closed.
After F. The arrows.
Oh, I honestly, I don't know what that's talking about. It's just, it's allowing us, okay, when you're using, if you are nearsighted, that means you can see things near, but you can't see things far. So if these glasses are doing that, it's gonna bring a focal point here so that this over here is in focus. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I see, that is confusing, that should have just ended right there at that point, which is what this one does, it ends at that point.
Yeah.
But if I'm using them for glasses to see in a distance, it's allowing me to see that stuff that's
I'm
over there.
nearsighted.
You're nearsighted. So you use your glasses for distance. Okay.
Because I can read this
Uh-huh.
on glasses.
Without your glasses.
And I
Okay.
looked at that and I couldn't read it, and it said emergency evacuation. I couldn't read it without the glasses, but I can with.
Okay,
so.
emergency
I couldn't read
evacuation
this one.
plan.
The way the colors are, it's hard to see.
Alright, are we good on our lenses, gang?
Yes.
Focal point, see, notice real quick, Erebus here. It's gonna do it at our focal point again, right here. This line just keeps going, keeps going, keeps going. It's gonna allow us to focus there. Do you get it? So bringing us to the eyeball.
Eyeball.
The eyeball has a lens in it, and it has a type of lens that looks like this. So what kind of lens is
A
that?
converging lens.
A converging lens. So it's gonna take the light, and it's gonna bring it through this hole in your eyeball, and it's gonna focus it in the movie screen on the back of your eye. Alright, there's a movie screen back there. It's called
The
a
back
retina.
The bacteria are watching the movie.
Or what?
The bacteria.
Oh, there's no bacteria in our eye. Yes.
Last year in general science, we dissected an eyeball,
Yes.
and like we cut out the lens, and
Yeah.
it was like this hard.
Oh yeah, the sheep
And
eyeball.
it was only hard because of the preservative.
The sheep eyeball.
Yep.
It was squishy and hard.
really
It had like this blue
Yummy.
tint to
Oh,
it.
yeah, remember
lenses
that?
to this, so.
If
Pretty
you need
chill.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Use
I was using a knife wrong.
Go.
Alright,
Yeah.
so,
I forgot.
but these are the parts of the eyeball. I actually brought a model of the eye for us to look at here in a little bit. Okay, so here's our next, what part of the eye controls the amount of light that enters the eye?
Iris.
The
Iris.
iris.
The pupil.
Pupil.
Oh, that's, I don't know what the iris.
The iris is this green part on here.
Oh, I thought that was.
It's a muscular, you know what, it's a muscle that closes and opens depending on how much light is coming into it.
Wait,
Alright,
the iris is the color part of your eye?
uh-huh,
How come they're all different colors?
because of DNA. Yeah, it doesn't, I don't know what the function is for the color, if you're asking me there's no advantage to a color. I will say darker colored eyes can manage more bright light coming into them.
Not me.
Yeah?
If I just got up from sleeping, and I'll go and I have to let my dog out, and then someone hit me in the eyes, I'm like,
Well, and what happens is that pupil shrinks really quickly, and that's a muscle, and it's almost like a muscle cramp. In other words, it hurts because it happens so quickly, but it's closing just like this one is here. But the pupil is literally a hole in the eyeball. It's a hole that allows light to come through. Yes.
The cat ones are way weirder though, because my cat
Yes.
at night, his pupils like that. It's like they're so cute, like the eye.
They close in a slit.
Yes, they become like a slit.
Yeah. Some
At
other
night it's
animals
like-
do that. There's, yeah.
When does that
Goats
start?
have, they're almost like a rectangle.
That's
Very strange, very strange. And it has to do with the way the light's coming into the eye. The way it's been designed, and so it's been designed for each creature that way. Alright, so here we have our ice cream cone. It's gonna come through, the light's gonna come through the hole in your eyeball. It's gonna go through the converging lens of the lens of your eye. It's gonna project it on the screen back here, which is called the retina. The retina is gonna collect the material, take it to the optic nerve to your brain, and you're gonna say, oh, there's a tree. Or
why is it
there's a
upside
ball.
down?
Why is it upside down? Here's the easy answer, because light travels in straight lines. That's why
not
it's
the
upside
answer.
down. My kids get frustrated when I say that. Yes.
You said, oh, that's a treat. That's a piece of ice cream.
Oh, that's an ice cream.
I think your
Uh-huh.
eyes are full of
You're
it.
right. Look, pink ice cream. Okay, so if light travels in straight lines, which we know is true about light, then the light bouncing off, reflecting off this pine cone, this ice cream cone, is going to reflect off like this, like this, like this, straight lines, and then straight all other directions. Okay? So when it comes through my eye, the middle of the ice cream cone is going to come straight through right here. And look what I see on the back there, the middle of my ice cream cone. Guys. All right? But the light that's that's gonna come through this tiny, tiny hole is only gonna come from down here, and only gonna come from up here,
And
like
they're
that,
straight lines.
in straight lines.
Is it the optic nerve that sends the
Well,
The optic nerve sends the signals from the retina to the brain.
visual input?
if
I'll
it
give it to you in a minute.
if it went straight from the cone like across, it wouldn't be able to go through this. the
Exactly.
hole.
This light coming straight through like this, it's not going to the pupil. It's coming at me, but I can't. It's not going in the thing right here. Okay.
That's why I asked
It's the
you.
same concept of a camera. The camera has a little thing. It's called an iris actually that opens up, and you've got to get the light to come through that. If you use an old-fashioned camera, the picture will be upside down. And in the old days, when they used the ones the guy stood behind and had everybody stand really still, and they put the cover over their head, and they had a screen right here that showed what they were looking at. Everybody was upside down. They were right side up over there, and that's because the way lenses work, because light travels in straight lines, and it travels, of course, very fast.
That's not how they work anymore though.
No, now with digital, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, digital has changed everything. Yeah, I don't think the pictures are as rich and beautiful, but here we go. What part of the eye sends the signal to the brain to interpret visual input? The retina and optic nerve. Retina and optic nerve. That's the official answer for that blank. Now, once it hits the retina has specialized what are called photoreceptors. So photoreceptors are nerve cells that are stimulated by light. In fact, that's the only place I believe we have photoreceptors in our body is in our retina. All of our other senses do other things. Chemoreceptors, mechanical receptors, thermoreceptors. Chemoreceptors with chemicals, so if chemicals dissolve on my tongue, I taste them. That's chemoreceptor. Okay, how does the eye detect color? Rods and cones, speaking of ice cream cones, rods and cones in the eye are color sensitive. The cones are the ones that detect color, and the rods are the ones that detect light and not light. Dark and light, right? Okay, so when there's a lot of light, there's a lot of color. When there's not very much light, the color dims and dims and dims. You probably notice that at dusk. When the sun's going down, all the colors tend to meld together and you can't tell the difference between the colors. Our lab today, we're going to be showing the difference of the colors and how they change in the presence of other colors.
So the cones depends on the rods.
Not really. The rods are just saying yes, it's light or not light. You could say it this way: the rods are for black and white. It's a little more complex than that, but that's okay. And the cones are for color. Now, if let's say, for instance, somebody was born with no cones, could they still see? Yes, but everything would be black and white. Okay, and you've probably heard the story that dogs are colorblind or whatever. So it's not exact. I always thought, well, how do we know? Well, it turns out they just don't see as many things on the spectrum as we see. Didn't we see that last time? Did we watch that video last time?
No.
Yes.
What happens to people that they can see color, but they can't see all the colors?
Like color blindness?
Yes.
Yeah, so color blindness has to do with an X-linked gene, which means there's a gene missing on in other words, it's mostly boys that have that problem, and they're not able to differentiate between red and green. Or there's another set of colors they
Blue and
can't
purple.
differentiate. Is it blue and purple? Okay.
Red and green.
Wow.
That's why.
Yes.
That's why colorblind was just lighter too.
He either says it's red or
species
brown.
has a limited spectrum of colors,
That's why colorblind people
and
should
other animals have a more.
Absolutely.
Did
Did y'all hear John Mark's question? He said if one species has limited number of cones to see different colors, then can other animals have more? And the answer is absolutely. So I think we're fixing to, if we didn't watch that video last time, we're fixing to watch it right now, I think. It's going to talk about the mantis shrimp or something. It's very cool. But let's see what it looks like. Here's our eye, the back of our eye. Those of you who dissected the eye, remember we peeled that little black part off the back? It was very, very thin. But that's the magic. That's where all the magic, that's called the retina. And it was kind of pearly looking with the black kind of reflect. It was very, and in that thin little paper thin thing, all this biochemistry is going on. The light hits it, it hits these ganglion cells, which synapses with here we have rods, and where's our cones? Which ones are the rods? Okay, the rods are the orange shaped ones here, the green ones are the cone ones right there. All right, and it's going to take all of those. Here's our pigmented cells, that's the black thing we were looking at. It's going to take that information. Here's what the cone looks like up close. Look look at all the mitochondria in there. If anybody remembers from any kind of cellular biology you may have done, the mitochondria is
Yeah,
the
the
powerhouse of the
powerhouse,
cell. Yeah. In other words, to do this, to process vision in your eyeball takes a lot of energy. All right, so we need all that ATP being used here because we have all those mitochondria. Here's the nucleus of the cell. Here's the nerve ending of the cell. And we have this large, like almost like receiving tower at the top of it here. So this must be the video I was thinking of. Let's watch this.
There are many ways that we use color. Artists use different colors to express emotions. Marketers attach colors to their brands to make them more recognizable. Animals use colors to ward off predators or attract mates, and people do too. What is color? Scientists define color as the limited range of light that we humans can see. We classify different types of light based on their wavelength, which can be anywhere from many meters in between each wave peak to lengths as short as the diameter of an atom.
We do that.
The full electromagnetic spectrum ranges from high-energy light waves with short wavelengths, like cosmic and gamma rays, to low-energy light waves with long wavelengths, like radio
We
waves.
do that.
The light we are able to see, called the visible light spectrum, ranges from violet light, which has a wavelength of about 400 nanometers, to red light, which has a longer wavelength of about 650 to 700 nanometers. But how do we perceive the visible light spectrum? When light bounces off an object, like this painting, into our eyes, it first hits the cornea, a film that lays on top of our eyes. This layer bends light towards the pupil, which dilates or contracts to let in more or less light. Once light passes through the pupil, it is sent to the lens, which angles and focuses the light to a point on the outer layer of the retina. Here, light-sensitive cells, called rods and cones, send information to ganglion nerve cells in the inner retina. Ganglion cells then send the information to the optic nerve, which sends the signal to the brain, where the signal is processed and interpreted. Rods and cones, the two types of light-sensitive cells located on the outer retina, have different jobs. Rods are responsible for our perception of light and dark and our peripheral vision. Cones are what allow us to see color. They are found in the center of the retina where light is focused. Cones come in 3 varieties, each sensitive to a different range of light. Interestingly, we have more cones sensitive to red light, meaning our vision is best for warmer colors like reds, oranges, and yellows. However, our cones aren't sensitive to light with wavelengths shorter than 400 nanometers or longer than around 700 nanometers. For example, a gamma wave's wavelength is about the size of an atomic nucleus, which is much too short for any of our 3 types of cones to sense. Radio waves are too long, with wavelengths longer than 2 Empire State Buildings put together. That doesn't mean that these forms of light aren't visible, per se. Other animals have different kinds and numbers of cones, which allows them to see the world differently than we do. Dogs, for example, are more limited in the wavelengths they can see because they only have 2 types of cones, leaving them colorblind to differences between red and green. Butterflies have 4 types of cones in their eyes, letting them see ultraviolet light. The animal with the best color vision might be the mantis shrimp, which has 12 different kinds of cones. If Pablo Picasso and Paul Klee created amazing works of art with just 3 types of cones, imagine the masterpieces the mantis shrimp would create with 12.
Except only he could see them, right? We wouldn't be able to see them. I do know that there are people that apparently can see better colors than other people can. Yeah, like a 4th cone. I've heard of this. And it's almost always females that have it. Okay, so, yes.
You know how people, like, who are colorblind can maybe buy a pair of glasses for
I've heard
something
that. That's
different?
kind of a new thing, right? That corrects it.
Yeah.
It
Do you
enhances the
think
color.
that if we tried hard enough there could be more colors by another pair of glasses?
Well, cause like when we use the night vision, we definitely see infrared. It looks kind of like a glowing, right? Like a heat from the heat. So that's the vision on that one. So it's kind of in the red family. So if you had glasses that included that, maybe you could see everything plus that. That'd be kind of distracting, probably. All right, but I'm gonna test you on a couple things here. I'm gonna see if I can fool your eyes a little bit. So tell me what color this dress is.
Gold.
Yellow.
Brown.
What?
Brown.
It looks brown to you?
Pink.
It looks
Yeah.
pink to you?
It's a
No.
brownish yellow color.
Pink.
Is it white with gold?
It's white with gold.
I see white with gold.
Yeah.
Does anybody see
White.
something vastly different from white with gold?
It's gold.
I
with
see white with gold.
Okay.
Gold with
Yeah, I
white.
What about now?
I
It's
see white.
blue.
I
blue
see
with-
black
blue
with
with
blue.
black.
Purple and black.
Blue
Yeah.
and dark
I
blue.
see white
So there are some
with
people that see
dark
that,
gold.
they look at that and they see this.
What?
Yeah.
And there are some people that look at that and see this. I don't get it, but it is true.
How?
Yeah, so there's something to do with the way individual eyes see. The color is exactly the same for everybody, but some people see it differently.
I think everybody here saw that.
I would love to watch.
This was
But
not my
everybody
eyes.
saw gold and white here, ivory and gold, right? Alright. Alright, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to stare at that red cross. Yes, Olivia.
My a long time ago, when I was younger, my aunt showed me one, but it was with shoes.
Yeah?
And you see a pink or a blue.
And different people in the room. Remember there was that thing when we had to listen to when people thought they heard one thing and other people said no, they said something else. So it's a way of switching that. So y'all stare at that red cross. Keep staring. Kind of stare at the middle, like right in the middle there. And keep staring. Those of you over here, like Eliana, where you are, David, where are you? You're gonna have a better deal with this
There's
one than
like
those of
a
you to
bunch
the
of
side.
other colors.
Yeah, you can see there's other stuff in there. Once you stare at it.
White background really affects it.
Okay. So what's going to happen now? I want you to keep staring at the screen. Keep staring, and now tell me what you see. Blink your eyes if you can't see
Blue.
Oh my
anything.
goodness.
Blue cross.
I see that.
I see a
oh my
blue
goodness.
cross.
I see a blue
I
cross.
see a blue
When I
airplane.
blink
Is it
my eyes.
blue or is it green?
It's a blue.
Blue.
It's,
It's
it's,
a
it's
very
blue.
light blue.
It looks like a blue
It's
airplane.
blue
It's a
and green.
black
It's
one.
turquoise.
Does
It's
anybody still
turquoise.
have it?
A
It's
black
I don't
turquoise.
have it.
Judge,
No,
I
it's
still
gone.
have
No, it's still there.
Okay, so
I see
that's
it.
a process called retinal retention.
It's
Yes.
turquoise.
My eyes messed it up so bad. I saw a blue airplane.
What? You saw an airplane?
Yeah, like the
And
sides.
if you move your
Still
eyes,
see
the
it.
airplane will fly away. It'll move. It'll move. Like mine moved up the screen. Okay,
Yeah,
so
it
what's
moves.
happening here, y'all?
It's
When we
a
were
blue
staring at
cross.
this, we were looking at the red. Okay, so we stare at, and our eyes say red, 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 red. And after a second, they say stop looking at that red. But we keep looking at that red, and the eyes are going, oh my goodness, you're making my red cones very tired. So what I'm gonna do, I realize you're gonna keep staring at that red thing, so I'm gonna shut off the red cones now. And when I do that, I'm gonna have the other cones left.
Ah.
Mine's moving. Mine looks like
It's
a
such a blue
Oh, I didn't
cross.
stare at it
Okay,
again.
now what's kind of
It's
cool
a-
about this, what you're gonna end up seeing the opposite color of it because it's gonna be those other two cones that were not being stimulated.
Ooh, no, it's
Okay.
a circle.
It's a blue cross, like
Yeah.
a globe,
Dick.
surrounded by a gray box.
Okay,
Oh,
White.
alright, now check this out. Stare at that
It's
red
Jack
dot.
Frost.
Oh, it's
So, yeah.
sealed.
We'll keep staring at the red,
Well,
the red
matter.
dot on her nose right there. And our
That's a hurt.
eyes are gonna get really tired of staring at that. This is called a negative
It's a lot of blue.
image. Alright, so a negative image, this is the way that
I'm sorry, I get a headache.
pictures used to be taken back in the day.
Too much blue.
So keep staring, keep staring.
I'm sorry, I get a headache.
Don't get a headache. Don't do that.
I don't even
Okay, are
control
we
it.
ready?
Whoa, she got
Whoa,
color.
it's
I
brown.
saw it.
It's brown.
No,
It wasn't.
That was
I
black
saw
color.
all
Black
of
and white.
it.
It was
It's
normal.
in color.
She
Black
got
Her
color.
hair.
It's in color. Let's
I
go
see
for it
her
again.
still.
To me, it looks like black and white.
Y'all stared really good at that red dot.
Hey, that's so cool.
You'll notice if you stare at it when I put the white screen up there, the red dot's gonna be kind of black when we get to it. You can even blur your eyes a little bit if you want to. Okay, y'all ready? Here we go.
Hey.
I don't even see black.
Oh, I saw it when I
She's got
squinted.
earrings on.
She's still there.
Yes, and maybe if you blink your eyes.
Yeah, I see it.
And
I
she's
can-
gone.
it's
Wait,
just-
Oh,
Just-
yeah, there you
She's falling down off the screen for me. She's like not
Yeah, me
zipping
I still
down.
got her.
She went to like this
No.
side for me.
Yeah.
I only
She
see
was
Okay.
brown.
She went.
So
I saw
She was
Elvis
black.
for a second.
It's
What
She
the
was
heck?
she was black and white to me.
Really?
Is that
Must be
what I
black.
saw?
I love
There's some on your eye.
I love Lucy.
I'm wearing
Okay,
glasses.
so When we talk about additive primary colors, we're talking about the colors of light. We did this last time, right? And I have these again. I got the light wands again, where you have red and then you have your green and your blue, and you put them together and you end up with white light in the middle. Remember, we had to kind of move them around in such a way to make them the right amounts of each, because some of them are a little stronger than other ones right there. But this is called additive primary colors. And you can see here our secondary color wheel. Between red and yellow is orange. Between blue and yellow is green. Between blue and red is purple.
Wait, so from whatever is crossed, that's what colorblind people would see?
Colorblind people can't tell the difference between red and green. It looks the same to them.
Which
It's
one
a
is
color.
it? Red?
I don't know. That's a good question.
My
Like
brother
some
gets
people say
red,
it looks
green,
like
and brown.
brown.
confused.
Now,
Gray,
subtractive
orange.
primary colors, these are the colors you're going to use when you're painting. Okay, so those artists in the room, you know, the primary colors officially are yellow, magenta, and cyan. Those are officially the primary colors. And we get blue, red, and green as our secondary colors. And what do we get when we mix them all together? A dark.
Our third-dairy colors.
Yeah. Okay, time for lab. Okay, so what we're going to do, gang,
Third-dairy.
I'm going to turn this on for now.
Wait, Miss Casper.
I just swallowed
Yes,
my gum.
there are 2 blanks left.
Oh no,
What are
it's
you?
gonna
It's gonna be
it's not gonna come out for another 7
It
years.
says between primary addicted color and primary color of pigment
Somebody
is
say
that active colors blank light to the eye, and pink colors blank
What?
light to the eye.
Nothing.
You sure?
I'm 100.
That's
Huh.
all at the bottom.
All it does is just sits super
You'll be
still, and
Gracie.
Rods and cones in the eye are color sensitive. You got that?
Miss Casper.
Yes.
What happens when you swallow your gum?
Your stomach will digest it eventually.
Eventually.
Yeah,
It
right.
doesn't-
Just
it
7
doesn't
years
take
later.
5
Out of here.
Your stomach can't digest
It
it.
takes no.
You
It
just
just
Okay.
takes like a day or 2.
Have you never swallowed
I mean,
I've never swallowed gum before.
Okay.
It takes
My
longer,
sister
but it
swallowed
doesn't
a whole
take
package of gum
7 years.
when she was really little.
What are the
Yeah,
two
yours
blanks,
is
Miss
really-
Casper?
Okay.
She-
It's fine.
How old was she?
Rods and cones in the eye are color sensitive. You got that one?
Yes. Wait.
You know, rods and cones. The difference between primary additive color and primary colors of pigment, so that's between color, light and paint, is that additive colors shine light to the eye and paint colors reflect light to the eye.
Remember that wasn't on there.
I wonder. Now, were you supposed to do something in the additive and primary?
Yeah, we're supposed to draw the
Draw.
Let's
figure.
go back there then.
Everybody has a
Oh.
different outfit paper.
This is what you're drawing in additive. Red, green, blue, and you're going to say yellow, magenta, cyan, and white in the middle. So you're drawing 3 circles that overlap. You're going to do the same thing for the other one. We're just going to have different colors in there. On the second one, on the primary pigment color, you're going to put dark in the middle. You have to go in there and fix that.
No, we're not in history class.
Food, please.
This is not food. So sorry.
Oh my god.
Do not eat it.
Have you ever worn one of those Canadian hats?
Whoa,
like-
plates, my favorite
floppy hats?
food.
What's like baguette?
Oh,
That's with bread.
No, a baguette is also
Bread.
it's a bread and a hat.
I love that.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
It's a chip hat.
No, it's a baguette and it's a
A
hat.
baguette.
It's a
Or
baguette. It's a
hat.
hat.
Oh, I've heard about it.
Yeah.
I've heard about it.
Baguette
What do
is
you
a
mean
hat.
you heard about it? I've heard about it. Don't you know the one with the dot on the top?
Something like this.
Yeah.
What
It's
is
a
it?
It's from
Baguette.
France, you know whatever.
Baguette.
I don't think it's
It's
on
a
there.
baguette.
So wait, it's called a baguette.
I'll show a video one time. dude.
Red.
No, it's on Miss Casper.
Mm-hmm.
Baguette is both a hat and a bread.
I don't know what you're talking about. So
Definitely red.
But it's also what it
Chapeau is a hat. Chapeau.
So is a
It may be a
A
style.
beret.
Oh, a beret. Okay.
Baguette.
Baguette.
He said, I'm
I was
wearing
thinking
baguette.
maybe something
It's like
named
it's a
that
baguette.
style.
Hey, I still stand by it.
Man, think
You've done
it is a hat.
I
Miss
stand by
Casper,
it.
what's the primary pigment color thing?
Okay, y'all ready for primary pigment?
Yes.
So it's
I
gonna
wrote
look
it
just
down.
like that, but
Is that one?
no, that one.
yeah.
Let's bring the letter,
Hello,
letters
I
in
can see all
Color-
these
color
colors
element.
on this.
There's the right word.
Should be able to guess.
And when I draw it, yes.
Is this a light bulb? That's cool.
Be like, look,
What's the third bag say on it? Green.
blue and red.
I forgot Ollie was in here.
There's
Okay.
bees.
Ow!
So what you have there, y'all, are the light bulbs
What big people you have?
in the
That'd be
primary
scattered.
colors of light.
Really?
No.
Oh, we're gonna mix it together.
Wait, is this our lab, right?
Mhm.
So what's the lab name called?
Color chaos.
Could we turn the light on with our
How
bulbs?
creative.
Like with our,
Chaos.
like we.
Does it matter which light page we use?
Yes.
What are we doing with the
We have
nail
Let's
thing?
just-
Yeah, the one from last week.
Just-
will-
We never wrote
No,
anything
these
up on that
ones-
one. That's gonna be our reflection one. We'll have time to do both of them. Okay, so what I'm gonna bring to you now, y'all, this is the battery, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna put your light bulb, you're gonna one wire on one side of your battery,
I
and
don't
the
have
other
a
on the other
battery.
side, and look what it does. Right?
Are they
Now,
different
if you do it
colors?
and it doesn't light up, it's because you got them backwards. Comes up? Nothing? You gotta turn it around.
I don't have that.
Okay?
You have to wait for battery.
Wait, it's not so big.
This one better?
Okay.
Patience is not a trait.
Patience is a virtue.
Well, it's not a virtue I have.
So test your light
You say
bulbs, make
patience
sure
is
they
a
work.
statue? Yes.
Wait, Miss Casper, wait. Oh, it's kind of going. Wait, it was mine's green.
Yo, what do I do?
What is this?
Okay, you're gonna take your light bulbs,
Mine's weak.
and you're
Is
gonna
that light bulb?
like this.
This one doesn't work. My blue
Mine's
doesn't
weak.
work.
My red one doesn't work. Or is this my battery?
Can I borrow your blue one?
Yo.
Let me see when you say it's weak, Jonathan. Here, take this one.
My battery is
Yo, do
weak.
some
I
science.
can't figure it out.
Oh, my blue works.
Miss Casper, my battery
Oh, there.
is weak.
There, better?
I can't figure it out.
Alright, well,
Yeah, it's like barely. Look, there's like nothing.
What do I do? with
You're
this?
doing wrong.
just test all your light bulbs and make sure you have
Oh,
three
what,
different
if you
colors.
put, if you put multiple on there, it'll turn the other one off.
Green,
Yeah, I know. Wait, no, I have both
Try this one
on.
on then.
No.
red.
I got it to work! No, wait.
Where'd it go?
There we go.
Yay!
It only works on one.
See, if you have all of them on there, it like, it makes the other ones smell.
I lost one.
It only
Yo,
works
how
on
do
one
I
certain
use
part.
this?
I found it.
I think it's like you.
Battery truck, battery truck's
I
Okay.
figured it out!
Now I'm gonna bring to
Yes.
you some
How do I
beads.
use this?
Battery truck's getting
Okay.
warm.
Straddle it.
Yeah, so
Put it
take
over.
take them off the battery for now, y'all, just to conserve your battery, because I'm bringing the lab to you now. What I'm gonna bring is I'm gonna drop on your plate some beads of multiple colors.
Stick it on it. Under it.
Are those
One on
M&Ms?
each side.
Do
One
those
side
beads.
of the bowling side.
Carving or something?
Yes.
I tried to find another one of these kits, a new one of these kits. They're not available anymore. I had to give so many of these away because I did this lab during COVID. And I had to send it home with students.
Oh, cool.
So, look and make sure you have several different colors. that
One,
you use.
two.
I have only one red bead.
Okay, I get you
No,
now.
that's still several different colors.
Yo, my red
I have
burgundy.
6 colors.
Ow.
Oh, purple.
Quit.
But I'm trying to count. Alright, stop. Stop. Stop.
Yo.
Okay, that was special.
Okay, does anybody feel like they got gypped on a certain color?
Fine.
Red.
I have 5 colors.
I have a
I'm
lot
good.
of black.
Wait, no, wait. Yeah, I have. No,
I
I
have a
just
lot
split
of orange.
Yo.
I have like 3
I have a lot
to
of
6
green.
of each color.
it. What color am I missing?
I got a lot of green.
Oh, you're
A lot
missing
of
a color?
blue.
Yes. I only have 6.
Green,
I
red,
have
orange,
6 too.
yellow, black.
Wait, it keeps
One,
going.
Wait,
2,
what?
3, 4,
Wait.
5, 6. You're 6.
At least it's
Red,
7.
orange, yellow, green, blue, black.
Oh, okay.
Black.
Yo.
I have more
Oh.
red.
Yeah, Mom?
I have one red.
So we put them on the thing like this.
I grouped them up.
My red is
can.
bugging.
I want
Oh, there was one.
I put it like this.
Okay, yeah, so you can either put them, scattered, randomly or whatever. We got everything filled in on the book, yeah?
What does that do?
Yes.
Okay, so now what I'd like you to do, I'm gonna turn the lights out. So pay attention to what colors are where, alright? And now take your red light bulb. Everybody find your red light bulb.
Oh yeah, which one's red? This is red.
Yeah, you gotta find the red one.
Oh, there we go. I got it.
My red.
Red
I
light
got my
bulb.
red.
I got it.
Okay, I'm gonna turn the light off, and And now you're gonna bring your light to your little beads there, and I want you to notice how the light that you shine on them is gonna make it very hard to discern what colors you actually have.
Black is black, red is red.
Black and
Red
blue
should
look the
continue to
same.
look
Green
red.
is green.
They all look the
Well,
same.
now we can tell.
They look similar,
Orange is orange,
right?
red is
Similar.
red,
I
red is
see
black.
white and
Is that
black.
a racist joke?
Yellow is yellow.
Okay, white. Okay, I see that.
See,
I can tell like
Alright,
red
orange
when
is
in the
orange.
light away.
Black
That's
and blue.
red.
Red says red.
That's yellow. That's
This one
orange.
looks blue.
This is black.
This is blue.
So,
I
so
can tell
now,
darker colors from lighter colors.
all right. So now try your blue one. Your blue one and put it on. Well, that's what you were using, Judy. Your blue
Oh,
one.
I thought you guys were just.
Blue and black look the same. Green
Oh, they
and
all
black
look
and blue
colorful.
look the same.
If you look
Your
it up,
your
it's
light's
easier.
really really
Red
bright.
and yellow look the same, and orange is by
That's
itself.
blue.
He's got a nice battery.
That's green.
That's like a
That's
sign.
Now
yellow,
try your
that's
other
red.
colors now.
Blue is blue, black
What do
is
you
black.
I
Green
look
is
better.
It changes
green,
every
white
minute.
is white.
So it has to do with the wavelength of the light coming in, and then of course the wavelength of the light reflecting.
See,
If I'm sending in blue light, is my yellow color going to be able to reflect much of that?
Blue
No.
looks green.
yellow looks like white.
Green and blue are total differences.
Yeah. So it really changes.
Wait,
You got a
green
nice
one.
Why can't we tell the
battery.
I don't know which is
Black.
Okay, so think about the color of the bead, right? It's going to be reflecting yellow, but if it has no yellow to reflect, then it's going to end up looking like you're just basically, it's essentially white
Right.
or whatever, and whatever color you're shining on it. And I think it's
I got a
interesting
lighthouse.
in the blue how the red doesn't look red anymore.
Orange looks yellow.
Orange in the red and the blue?
Orange
Or
looks like a
Green
gray.
overpowers the blue.
That looks
Green
gray.
still looks
That
like
looks like an
green.
olive.
I don't know, we have a lighthouse.
Oh, Lydia.
Blue.
The black.
So the yellow is more prone to change than all the others.
That probably is correct, yeah. And think about, so that yellow, red, orange, yellow is right in the middle of the spectrum there.
For all of them, yellow wasn't yellow.
I'm trying to probe someone.